is a great time to be shopping around for a budget smartphone. We have quite a few strong offerings, and today let's take a look at two of them to see which is the better option in the under 10K segment. Hey guys, Ash here from C4eTech and welcome to my comparison of the Realme 3 with the Xiaomi Redmi Note 7, or rather Redmi Note 7 since Redmi is now a sub-brand. Let's get started. If you do end up liking this video, please don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Now before we start, what is your preference, Realme 3 or Redmi Note 7? Use a poll, make your pick. Let's now move on. So as always, let's start with the build. Other than gradient backs and rear fingerprint scanners, these phones differ in pretty much every aspect of their design. We have a glass sandwich design on the Note 7 that is being held together by a plastic shell. Premium materials, good in-hand feel, but it does have a certain heft to it. The Realme 3 on the other hand is around 10 grams lighter. Now that's thanks to all the plastic used. Again, this has a good in-hand feel thanks to those curved edges, and it sports a way more vibrant color changing pattern to the back. Both phones look nice, but I'd have to give the Redmi Note 7 a win here since it's got the more premium Gorilla Glass 5 to the back, meaning in the long term it will pick up fewer scratches. Let's now move on to the display. We have 6+ screens with teardrop notches on both these phones. The one on the Note 7 is slightly larger, 6.3 inches compared to 6.22. It more importantly has a higher resolution for the HD Plus compared to HD Plus. Both phones also come with Corning's Gorilla Glass for protection, an unnamed version on the Realme 3, Gorilla Glass 5 on the Note 7. The panel on the Note 7 also happens to get a tad brighter and have punchier colors, so the Note 7 extends its lead here with display. Let's now move on to the other aspects of media consumption. With speakers, both have bottom firing units and they both get fairly loud. When it comes to sound output through the headphone jack, Xiaomi wins out as the Note 7 sounds a bit more fuller than the Realme 3. And because online streaming has become such a big deal in the past few months, the Note 7 has wideband L3 certification, something the Realme 3 lacks. So again, another round to the Redmi Note 7. Next, let's move on to the internals. We have the Mediatek Helio P70 powering the Realme 3 and it's going up against the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 on the Redmi Note 7. Now note that this is the full-fledged Snapdragon 660, so it manages to edge out the Helio P70 in benchmarks. With real day-to-day usage, I couldn't tell a difference between these two. Both were fast when it comes to opening up apps, and even multitasking was great. Both phones have 332 and 464 options, and you can even add microSD for storage expansion. Now here it's worth mentioning that the Realme 3 has a dedicated microSD slot while the Note 7 resorts to a hybrid setup. When it comes to GPU though, the Note 7 with its Adreno 512 takes the lead. That's not to say that the Mali G72 MP3 inside the Realme 3 is a bad performer, but when it comes to really demanding titles like PUBG and Asphalt 9, the 660 tends to drop lesser frames and offer an overall smoother experience. So the performance round, it again goes to the Redmi Note 7. Moving on to battery life, this is where the Realme 3 hits back. Its battery capacity might only be a 5% increase over the 4000 mAh unit on the Note 7, but in real life, the combination of the 4230 mAh battery and a lower resolution screen on the Realme 3 results in at least 15% better battery life. Now, when it comes to charging times, the Note 7 has a theoretical advantage since it does support Qualcomm Quick Charge 4. I say theoretical since out of the box, both phones come with a 10-watt charger. So I'm going to give this round to the Realme and now head on to software, and here's where you guys pretty much know how it's going to go down. Both ColorOS 6 on the Realme 3 and MIUI 10 on the Redmi Note 7 are based on Android 9 Pie. Both are pretty feature-rich user interfaces and come with their own bells and whistles. But ultimately, it all boils down to the ad situation. Ads seem to be a permanent fixture in all Redmi devices, which means I'm going to give this one to the Realme again. Now, even without ads, I might have ended up giving this one to Realme since the Note 7 does lag from time to time, especially with the camera. And I'm sure this is something Redmi will fix with updates in the future as they are quite good at fixing bugs. But as of today, the software does seem more stable with the Realme. Now before we talk cameras, let's wrap up the sundries. The Note 7 sports an IR blaster as well as a Type-C port, while the Realme 3, as we've seen, has a dedicated microSD slot. Face unlock also happens to be a tad faster on it. Now since we touched on face unlock, the fingerprint scanners are equally fast. So this one again is the Redmi Note 7. So now let's get to cameras. We have a 13 megapixel f1.8 primary rear shooter on the Realme 3, and that's going up against a 12 megapixel f2.2 on the Redmi Note 7. Both have 2 megapixel depth sensors. Under bright sunlight, both these phones take good looking pictures. The Realme 3 has the advantage when it comes to dynamic range as well as colors, but the Note 7 generally edges it out in terms of detail. Just look at the grass in this picture and the flower here. The Note 7 by default tends to take more saturated pictures. I mean, some of you might like that saturated pictures that you find on the Redmi Note 7, but in that case the Realme 3 also has something to offer. It's got a chroma boost mode which kind of pumps up the saturation. It looks nice in a few instances, too artificial in others, so it's a bit of a hit or a miss. Next, let's move on to the real test, low light. Here under auto mode, which is what most people will usually use, the Note 7 holds a clear edge. There's more detail, there's lesser noise. Just take this tree for example. Now moving on, let's try night mode. Now on both these phones there are their own versions of night mode, and here the Realme 3's Nightscape ends up doing a better job. There's a better picture here, they're brighter, and zooming in you can see a lot more detail and lesser noise than on the Redmi Note 7. Now we did try Gcam out on the Note 7 because Camera 2 API is enabled there, and there is a Gcam option available right now. But the 12 megapixel Indian unit, it does produce shaky images with night side on. So for the most part, Realme 3's night mode does a fine job until you try to use it under almost complete darkness. Here you might opt for Gcam's night side on the Note 7, as it does at least come up with a usable image. Now moving on to videos, what you're watching right now is 1080p 30 fps footage. The Realme 3 has better dynamic range and colors again. The videos both appear pretty stable because both brands do offer EIS. Now one advantage of the Note 7 is that it allows you to go up to 1080p 60 fps via the default app or 4K 30 fps via Gcam, but in both cases you will have to compromise on EIS. Moving on to portrait shots, both phones have done a fairly good job here. Edge reduction seems to be slightly better on the Realme 3. It also does have a more pronounced bokeh effect than the Note 7. When it comes to selfies, both the 13 megapixel shooters take good shots, but I prefer the colors and dynamic range a little more on the Realme 3. The detail levels are also similar and the edge reduction is on par. So who wins the camera round? I'd say both are pretty evenly matched. Daylight was a tie, low light on auto went to the Note 7, and it also boasts of more video capture options. On the other hand, Realme holds the edge when it comes to selfies, portraits, and shoots better looking 1080p stabilized footage. Overall though, I think the Note 7 wins this one for simply being extremely competent in auto mode and providing users with tons of choices including Gcam. But you guys saw the images for yourself, so feel free to choose your own winner. Let's now wrap this one up with pricing. The Note 7 starts at 10,000 rupees while the Realme 3 is 1,000 rupees cheaper. So is the Note 7 worth the extra 1,000? Well, it's got Gorilla Glass to the front and back, a higher resolution display, a solid chip, a Type-C port, an IR blaster, competent cameras. Now, if these are things that matter to you, then yes, the Note 7 should be your pick. But if you're on a tighter budget, then the Realme 3 offers almost the same performance, cameras that perform better under certain scenarios, worse under others, longer battery life, and more importantly, no ads in the UI. But it also happens to have a lower resolution display and an entirely plastic build. If you can live with those compromises, then yeah, you can save 1,000 rupees and pick up the Realme 3. Hell, you'll even end up getting a dedicated microSD slot. So that's basically my take on the Realme 3 versus the Redmi Note 7. What's yours? If you were to choose between these two phones today, if you were to buy one, then what would you go for? The Redmi Note 7 or the Realme 3? Let me know via the comments below, and also let me know why. And while you're down there, hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button based on whatever you felt about this video. Share it with friends and family if you can. Subscribe, turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon if you haven't yet. And if you've not watched these videos, go ahead, check them out. They might be interesting. Go on, do it. So I guess that's it for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4Retech, and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye. Now, after this video was done and just before we were about to go live with it, Redmi sent out an update for night mode for the Note 7. So, of course, I wanted to add that to the video. So, starting off with this picture of baby Groot, you can see that there are more details and it's an overall better looking picture shot by the Realme 3's Nightscape compared to the Note 7's night mode. And that's generally the trend here. The night mode on the Note 7 introduces a lot more noise as it pushes ISO really high. This results in a brighter image at times, but the increased noise levels are often not worth it. Since this doesn't really affect our comparison result, I didn't go back and change the entire video, but decided to just add it in at the end. So yeah, there you have it.